Hey guys, it's Mars. Welcome back to Harpies in the Trees, where I review horror books with a supernatural focus. Today is Sunday, as I'm filming this, which means tomorrow we leave to the Baltic Sea, and I'm really excited about this. It's going to be actually for a whole week. 7 days of just hiking and reading and walking and eating and sleeping. And I am going to do a reading vlog while I'm there, and I'm also going to try and catch up on my short stories, which I got neglected this week. So today I'm going to be reviewing 2 books, well, 1 novella and 1 book. One is Dear Laura by Gemma, Amor, and The House of a Hundred Whispers by Masterton. We did do a readathon for this, and I did a wrap up. If you want to check it out, I'll put it up here. I'm very excited. I got materials for my spooky library tour that I'm going to do. So I'm going to be doing these floating candles, and I have all of my toilet paper rolls, and I have my little LED lights, and I have all my stuff to go. So I'm going to be doing that when I get back. And I also articulated a little plastic skeleton. I made cuts where all of the joints are, like for the feet and the hands and the elbows and stuff, and put some wire there so I can animate him running around on my bookshelf. And I got balloons so that I could do a paper mache type pumpkin head for myself. I think I'm gonna do a little costume for that. So it's gonna be really fun. Also, thank you guys so much for sending in your questions that I can answer on this weekly library tour. It was really cool to do a Q&A. I've never done it before. Before we get into the book reviews, let's do a few comment shoutouts. Vanessa says, "Your voice is so soothing. Audible needs to hire you now. Your soothing voice reading creepy books. I would die and come back to life." So this is a comment that I get pretty regularly, and it makes me excited because I love reading and narrating out loud. And sometimes even when I'm just reading by myself, sometimes I will read dialogue out loud just because it's fun, you know, it's just kind of fun to do. Horror Hut says, "Darcy Coates is an amazing author. My favorite book of hers is The Haunting of Ashburn House. It's twisted." The Haunting of Ashburn House was my first Darcy Coates book, and I just loved it from the very beginning. And I like that a lot of her characters are sort of these solitary characters, you know, they're people who kind of just find themselves on their own and then kind of stumble upon a situation that is a little supernatural. Dear Laura is about a 13-year-old girl who has a boyfriend named Bobby. He's 15 years old. One day they go to the school bus stop together because they always ride to school together, but she forgot something. So she says, you know, wait here for me, I'll be back, I just have to run and get something. So she runs back to the house, she grabs whatever she needs for, you know, school that day. And as she's coming back up to the bus stop, she sees that her boyfriend Bobby is willingly getting into this strange van that's on the street. The van takes off and nobody ever sees Bobby again. However, Laura begins to receive letters from someone who's claiming to know Bobby, to know what happened to Bobby. And they will give her some details on his death and maybe like where he is if she does something for him. So Laura and this anonymous letter writer enter into a very weird relationship where a letter is sent, it's asked for something, because the only thing that Laura wants more than anything in the world is to find Bobby or to know what happened to Bobby. She gives in to these requests. So Dear Laura is really creepy, and it's pretty harrowing. It's dealing with a lot of real life situations that are definitely creepy. I think a lot of people, especially women, can, you know, you have stories of somebody who was stalking you, whether it was online or it was in person, and the repercussions of what it's like to be experiencing all of these traumas and growing up with them. So it does hit home in a lot of ways. So it was very creepy. And I think it was like just the perfect length for the story. So we get to follow Laura from when she's 13 up until when she's 44. And we kind of get to see this story played out. It also is pretty cool because it's like, it starts when she's 13 and then, you know, we're kind of jumping back and forth between the past and the present, and that's kind of like how the story is unfolding, which is really cool. I kind of like that. The writing is really nice. It's very easy to read. It is very infuriating in the sense that you just want to help.
Let me help you.
It's a story, obviously. You can't do anything about it. If you liked Pen Pal by Dathan Auerbach, you'll probably like Dear Laura. I will say though that it wasn't like extremely scary or anything, but it is scary in the sense of how real to life this can be. So you have like this true crime vibe, you have true creepy vibe, you have a little bit of a mystery in here, you have some gore, you have mental health in here, and you have some revenge in here as well. So there's a lot packed in here in this really tiny little novella, but it was very good. The House of 100 Whispers begins with a murder. The murder of Herbert. Herbert lives in this really old mansion in Dartmoor, and he is murdered. Nobody knows who does it, but his family needs to come and figure out all of the stuff that they need to figure out with the will and the land and the house and all that kind of stuff. So his 2 sons and daughter come with their partners to the house to talk with the lawyer and just, get everything wrapped up. But his son Rob and his wife Vicky have a son named Timmy who's 5 years old. And as all the adults are trying to figure out what's going on with the will, Timmy disappears. A search begins and they try to find Timmy inside the house and outside the house, but they're not able to find him. It just appears as if he's vanished into thin air. And this kicks off our story, The House of 100 Whispers. It was so fun to read. I was just like enthralled by it. I was completely lost in the book, and I was doing the readathon with this, so I was only reading. We were only reading 6 chapters at a time, but it was really hard not to continue going on. I mean, granted, the chapters were really short, but it was like, I want to keep going, and it was just so fascinating. Like, this cover really doesn't do justice to like what the book is. It has so much depth and complexity and like intrigue to it. I had no idea what I was getting into, and it was fucking fabulous. I really loved the couples because each of the couples kind of had their own little microcosm that they were bringing to the house. There was Rob and Vicky and Timmy, who were a very close-knit family. There was Grace and Portia, who were a little bit more aloof and a little bit more cosmopolitan. And there was Martin and Catherine, who were these kind of upper crust, kind of snobby, kind of money-focused people. There was also like a handful of other characters who were really fascinating, who brought a lot of interesting information. So each one had an area of expertise. One would be the history of Dartmoor, the other one would be druid magic, another one would be exorcism. So they were bringing all of this really fascinating stuff to the book. So there's one character who's really specialized in just the occult, so he's like an occult expert.
He's obsessed with the occult.
But he's talking about this one woman. He talks about a druidic goddess whose name is Kalia Bear, I think. I don't know if I said that right. Who is a goddess of air and darkness. Her name means the veiled one with the shrilled voice. She detested sunlight and warm weather. In the summer, she would turn into a gray rock and lie there waiting for the darkness and the cold days to come. That's a mood, and that is everything I'm about. I grew up on Celtic folktales. I was a really big fan of Brian Froud. So a lot of that mythology that I learned about was through him and through his work. For me, this was very exciting because a lot of the stuff that they were talking about, some of it I had never heard of before. I mean, I'm not like an expert on the topic or anything, but sometimes I feel like in a lot of horror books, it's the mythologies that might be talked about are kind of real surface level. It's like the popular ones or the well-known ones. I feel like they don't really dig too deep too often. It felt like a lot of it, or almost all of it, except for obviously the supernatural aspects and the fantastical aspects that were happening, were all based in lore and history. So very, very cool. There was also like a few jump scares in the book for me, which is very, very rare. I mean, I rarely have a book jump scare. It sounds really kind of silly, but it was just something happened that I was not expecting. But when I came to this certain place, I was like, oh my God. It was really crazy. And I think that's one thing that I really liked about the book, was that there were a lot of things that were happening that I wasn't expecting, that I couldn't see coming. So that was really, really fun. My only complaint about this book though was that the conclusion. So there are definitely like a handful of intrigues in the book, and those are being tied up at the end. So for like the minor loose ends, like I didn't really have any problems with those. I felt like they resolved really well. But for the main part, how it resolves itself, it was a bit silly, I thought, and also it was a little convenient how it went. I would have given it 5 stars if the ending had been, something that was just more, I don't know, that I liked better, I guess. Like, I like the last 2 pages, where, the whole, flute thing or something. I liked that. It was more the Rob situation for me that I just was like, so that was my review for Dear Laura by Gemma Amor and The House of 100 Whispers by Graham Masterton. I hope that you liked these reviews. If you've read Dear Laura, let me know what you thought about it. And also, what did you think of the ending of The House of 100 Whispers if you read it? If you liked this video, please like and comment below. I would appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed already, but you like what you see, give me a subscribe. That would be really cool as well. Thank you so much for spending your free time with me tonight. Please take care of yourselves, look out for each other, and I will talk to you next time.